end of April, which means that the Brazil State Championships are coming to a close. And sure enough, this past weekend we found out all of the finalists of the country's 4 main state tournaments. First up here in São Paulo, we're going to have a never-before-seen final between last year's champions Santos and the state championship sensations Audax. Now, Santos got their place in the final after beating Palmeiras in a penalty shootout on Sunday afternoon. But the real story here is the tiny Audax, who apparently from nowhere have arrived and have made the final of the state tournament. So Audax were founded back in 2004 by the owners of a massive supermarket chain, and they initially went by the name of Pão de Açúcar Sport Club. And for the first few years of existence, they were mainly just an agents club. They focused a lot on youth football and just tried to sell off little percentages of their young talent as they went along. But in 2010, they started to take state football a little more seriously. That's when they changed their name to Audax, because Pão de Açúcar is the name of the supermarket chain that they were backed by. So it would be like having an English club called Tesco FC, something like that. So Audax was a better name for them. And they don't really have much of a fan base. And in 2013, they were bought over by millionaire banker Mario Teixeira. So in many respects, their ascension to the top of São Paulo state football isn't really much of a fairy tale. But what does make them interesting is their unique and often unorthodox playing style put in place by their young coach Fernando Diniz. And basically, so they play this really strict short passing style with lots of movement. Players are constantly changing positions, and they defend really well as well. Very compact and narrow, and they have some really sophisticated pressing tactics as well. So they're a really great team to watch. Their system definitely has its flaws, but it is so different that their opponents are just having a really hard time adjusting to it, which allowed them to absolutely batter São Paulo in the quarterfinals, and they also eliminated Corinthians in the semi-finals, and now have made their first ever final of the state championships. And personally, I think they have a really good chance of winning this final. Santos are definitely the better side in terms of personnel and technical quality, but Audax have shown themselves to be a far more efficient team, and I think Santos will find it very difficult to beat them over 2 legs. Anyway, whatever happens, whether they win or not, Audax have guaranteed a place in the national 4th division, which starts later on this year. And Fernando Diniz is certain to attract a lot of attention from first division clubs looking for new coaches. Meanwhile, over in Rio, there have been no such surprises, as last year's winners Vasco made the final after beating their fierce rivals Flamengo by 2-0 on Sunday, and later that evening Botafogo also guaranteed their place in the final by beating Fluminense 1-0. Now, neither of these two sides are in particularly good positions. Botafogo are the not-so-proud owners of the largest debt in Brazilian football, while Vasco are set to spend a season in the national 2nd division after their relegation in 2015. Both have become somewhat yo-yo clubs over the past few years. And perhaps this explains the enthusiasm of both sides for the state football, as the state championship in Rio is an eminently winnable trophy. It doesn't mean a lot in the long run, and it's sure to give either sets of fans a good confidence boost before the start of the national season. Now we go a little more inland to the state of Minas Gerais, where the state final is going to take place between América and Atlético Mineiro. Now, América skillfully put out Cruzeiro in the semi-final, beating them 2-0 over 2 legs, while Atlético had quite a tricky game against a really well-organised team, URT, from the interior of the Minas Gerais state. They won 4-2 over the 2 legs. Now, Atlético have been quietly impressive so far in 2016. They're certainly not as adventurous as they were last year, but they look a lot more secure, and they've managed to improve their squad with the likes of Robinho, Casares, Yuri, Clayton as well. I mean, so they've got a lot of interesting attacking options this year. The fans, however, they've not been won over by their Uruguayan coach Diego Aguirre. They seem to be a bit desperate for the equally desperate playing style that Atletico showed under previous managers. But I think in terms of results, they should do better under Aguirre. He certainly looks to be a lot more responsible than their previous coaches. And something that works to America's advantage here is that the two legs of the state final coincide with Atlético Mineiro's last 16 tie in the Copa Libertadores against Argentine side Racing. And you can be certain that Atletico will be paying a lot more attention to the continental game, and they might end up even resting some of their first team players for the state final, which bodes well for America. Finally, in Brazil's southernmost state of Rio Grande do Sul, Internacional have got a really good chance of some early silverware after their rivals Grêmio were eliminated in the semi-finals by the traditional side Juventude from the city of Caxias do Sul. With one of their eyes on their Copa Libertadores tie, they really slipped up in the first leg against Juventude and lost 2-0. And even though Grêmio managed to win 3-1 on Sunday, they ended up going out on away goals. Now, Inter, despite being in the final, have put in some really poor performances recently and have come under a lot of criticism and will be under a lot of pressure to win this state final. If they do slip up, they don't have any continental football to fall back on, and their coach could be in trouble. They could be looking to change manager before the start of the national season. So that's all for today. Those matches will take place this weekend and the next, so join us then when we will cover everything that went on, who are the state champions, all that sort of thing. In the meantime, subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'll have more videos on the way, and get in touch with us via Twitter or Facebook. And until next time, I'm Euan Marshall saying ciao e até mais.